I thought I've been sending out, actually maybe, I don't know if you've received this, but I've been sending out this email newsletter called From the Workbench, where it's me just talking about things that I see, things that irritate me in the industry, like...
I think I did see one of those.
The most recent one I did was how like everything's becoming so impersonal in construction.
Yeah, I think that's the one I got.
Yeah. So a barn like this is like so far in the opposite direction. You've got like let's lay out like construction in general in 2026. In my mind, we'll talk about residential first. You've got the really cheap home builders who, right now they're selling the $300,000, $400,000 homes, slapping up a big neighborhood. It's really thin OSB for the walls, minimum amount of insulation, and everything that they can get away with. That's like bottom of the barrel. And the barn equivalent here would probably be, they call like a Morton building or a pole barn. You got pressure treated posts, sunk into the ground, metal walls, metal wall paneling, a metal roof. Very basic. Maybe it'll last you 50 years. Now let's go to the middle. Middle of the spectrum is going to be on home building, maybe in the $1 million range. You've got somebody who's intentional about the details. There's like a nice level of client communication, but the clients are still like picking from charcuterie board of options. Like they only have so many things they can pick in the price range. Mm-hmm. The barn equivalent of that would be post and beam. So you order a package that looks similar to this, but instead of joinery, you just have metal plates all over the place. Maybe you frame the walls on the exterior, you insulate, you put a wood stove in it, elevate the experience a little bit. I think that's probably a decent parallel. And then the highest level, residential, you've got the $6 to $20 million home. Let's call it $3 to $20 million home builders. And obviously that's a huge range. But now, you've got an interior designer, you've got a very high-end architect, you've got a high-end GC who's really good at picking out all the details and helping the client through the process. And this would be, this barn doesn't cost $20 million, but this would be on that level. We sit down, we have a very complete discussion with the client. We design the barn around exactly what they need it for. And then really the methodology to build it fills in all the other premium gaps. Timber frame, mortise and tenon joinery, white oak, nice electrical fixtures, nice spiral staircase. Still looks like a barn, but it's a barn that'll last 1,000 years. No joke, if taken care of. Yeah, that was kind of a long little tirade there, but I think that was, from low cost to high cost, you have different levels of human input. And at the low cost, it's like minimum human input. Mm-hmm. And at the top, it's like, we really care about you. We want you to be so happy with your structure, whatever it is.
The latter is more with the intent that you're going to stay there. The cheap build is, this just needs to fill an immediate need and have no intent of staying here long term, versus something like this says, my roots are here, and anything I can do to help the next generation is going to grow out of this barn too, and cherish it the same or more probably.
Yeah, I mean, so you grew up in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Did I say that right? Wisconsin.
Yeah, as long as you don't say like Westconsin. Okay. That's really weird.
No, so the Wisconsiners, they say it like Wisconsin.
No, that's Wisconsinites.
Oh, Wisconsinites. All right. Yep. Wisconsin is, yeah. All right. Anyway, so Wisconsin, big history of dairy there. A lot of barns, probably some timber framing, but now it's more modernized, right? There's newer barns are not timber framed, but anything, like my grandpa's barn, he had like a 50 cow dairy, and they're actually still milking cows there. My uncle and his family took it over, but that's a timber framed barn. The barn on my own family sort of homestead growing up, that's a timber framed barn. I don't know when it was built, but that was my question. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, it's old.
100 years?
At least. Because Dad put a lot of time and effort in. About 15 years ago, we did quite a bit of work to it. Like, we dug out the old foundation, the rock foundation, and we supported the frame on like makeshift piers.
That sounds like a ton of work.
And I helped with it. One of my pinkies is still like not symmetrical to the other pinky because I smashed my finger between two rocks. I was probably like 14 years old.
Wow.
But yeah, we unearthed the foundation and put a new foundation under this barn. Well, the half of it, that was the haymow part. The other half was the stanchion area where you milk the cows, and that was still really sturdy. But yeah, we didn't pour concrete. We laid new rocks and new mortar, and it was like, it had to be. My dad is very particular. It had to be the way that it was built back then.
That's just cool though.
New.
Yeah.
We had to strengthen some joints with some steel plates here and there, as opposed to like taking the barn apart and putting in a new timber there. That alternative is obviously a lot more expensive, I think. Yeah. But it's still pretty cool to see the barn kind of restored, and I don't know, it's hard to beat.
Yeah.
You can't replace that with a pole barn or something else.
Yeah, I mean that sentence encapsulates completely the way I feel about this barn. This isn't my barn, but when I come out here, like I brought my family out here yesterday just to be here. There's something. Maybe it's because it's such a versatile building. Like, you could use it for agriculture if you wanted, or you could do a party barn. You could dress it up, I mean, there's just so many different ways you could use it, and I think so many different ways people use it. For my own barn, I'm planning to use it both to store equipment and also throw a party if I ever want to. It doesn't need to be all sanded down, perfectly smooth, painted, very nice. It's just something. Maybe it's the American pioneer spirit of, like, rustic is more authentic almost than the super clean.
Yeah, I think there's probably something to that. Like, why does it feel different to walk into a barn like this versus another barn that's built with much more readily available commercial materials that are, purely manufactured? I think when you look at something like this, you almost kind of instinctively know that men's hands put this together. And it wasn't, so yeah, there's that. There's the craftsmanship element that you can visibly see and pick up on as soon as you walk in. Then there's also the I don't want to say warm and fuzzies, but there's the nostalgia of American agriculture as it was for most of our American history up until recently.
Yeah.
You know, it was something like this. And I think most people can appreciate that.
It's interesting, you know, I think we apply a romantic lens to American agriculture gone by. You know, if you watch the YouTube videos of the old timers on the farmalls, you know, they're working in their hay barns. They were not so-called like nice structures by any stretch of the imagination. They were sturdily built, but they used what they had. I mean, take for example our tobacco barn, which unfortunately recently burned down. But the lumber that was siding it, I mean, the posts were literally trees. So they just went out and they cut down a tree that was, 6 inches around, and then they nailed another tree, limb probably, as the horizontal tie. And then they just hung tobacco over it, and it was a tobacco barn. But the walls, all the wall paneling was rough sawn, old circle sawn boards that would have come from the sawmill 10 miles down the road, back when it was in its heyday. And,
no pun intended there.
Yeah. But that my tobacco barn, for example, is not nearly as nice as this. But there's some parallel between, I guess what I'm trying to say is these structures embody the romanticized take that we have of American agriculture, like you're describing. It's the beauty and the old time feel, but taken to another level almost.
Yeah, I think it's the bridge that can take us mentally to that place back in time.
Yeah.
It's like we don't have to dream about it. We can experience it. Yeah. We can experience it firsthand, real life.
Yeah.
I think that may be part of it. It's like you don't have to romanticize it. You can actually live it.
Yeah. Yeah. The owner of this barn, after we built it, I mean, these are expensive structures to build. And when we were flying in some of the last rafters, I was standing there, we were watching the guys finish it up. I was standing there next to him, and he said, when this is all said and done, I'm not really going to go back and think about the cost as much. Once it's built, the money's spent. I feel very blessed to have the money to be able to spend it. This is, again, him saying this to me. I'm not gonna like agonize over the cost. I'm just gonna really be glad that I built something that would last through the generations. And I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I feel the same way about even the structures that I'm building for myself that are also timber framed. I'm not there with a calculator thinking like, is this going to turn a profit for me in 50 years if I sell it or whatever? You can think that way, and it's a good way to think about a lot of different things, but there's a certain atmosphere to this place that you can't put a price on. And I think that's what he meant, and that's what I see from a lot of people that we build for. It is expensive, but it's all worth it in the end, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I think expensive is we can put the word expensive on a lot of things that, you know, are, say, let's just say that the third generation of the owner of this barn still enjoys this space and uses it for their own hobbies, or maybe even a profession, who knows. They're not going to look back on what he spent on this barn and go, gosh, man, I can't believe he did that. They're going to look back and say, like, wow, the pennies that it cost to build this barn then compared to what it would cost now, I could never repay him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's probably the thought that runs through the fifth generation farmer who was taking over the family farm and continuing, you know, whatever operation they were farming out of that barn, whether it was crops or livestock. But the appreciation you have for something that's sturdily built, you know, is going to keep lasting. And as long as you keep maintaining it, that maintenance cost is, you know, that's just a given. Like, yeah, keep it up, because what it costs to put this up is now pennies compared to what it would be now.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, you know, cost per year. Like, if this is a 1,000-year barn, let's just say it costs $400,000 to build. I don't know what that is, but it's not much over the 1,000 years. $40 or something? Yeah, $40 a year.
Yeah.
Right? Is that right? I'm gonna make a fool of myself on camera. 40 times 1,000 would be 40,000. So $400 a year. That's worth it. If it stays in the family, and even if it doesn't, somebody's going to appreciate it. So.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to knock a barn down if it's in good shape.
Yeah.
Like, you say this is standing and no one is in line to take it over, and the property goes up for sale. Man, if there's a good standing barn on a property, like, that builds excitement. And I think it would in me. If I was looking at a property and I saw a big barn on it and it's in good shape, man, that just opens up a huge space of excitement. In me, it's like, oh man, what can I do with this barn? And you can do tons of things with a barn. And if it only costs, you know, say it costs 20, 30 grand to put a new roof on or something, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to head off to a meeting here, but anything else? We'll call this, this will be the pilot video from the Workbench video series, part 1. Yeah, I guess the one thing I'll end with for today, at least, is it's pretty cool what a neat experience you can create with just timber. This is more rustic looking, but we've done buildings where it's very dressed up, sanded down, clear coat, walls are painted, timbers pop. The versatility, like we've talked a lot about barns today, but you know, the versatility of timber framing is good for a chapel, a home, a pump house. I mean, you can dress it up or dress it down almost infinitely.
Yeah, that's a huge. There's a huge advantage of timber framing is because with traditional construction, you don't really want to look at 2x4s and 2x6s. You hide that intentionally. Yeah. Now, if you can make a frame that is functional and decorative, it's like now you have a whole new facet of the style and architecture that you can, you know,
Yeah.
it opens up a new door to creativity
Yeah.
in any space, barn, house, outdoor spaces, pavilions.
Yeah, the lines on this barn were intentionally simple, and we've brought some people through here, and they point out the knee braces, for example, and they're like, "Oh, I love that arch. You all really went overboard with the arch." Well, I mean that's pretty standard for us to do the arches like that. Where we did add a little bit of decorative pop is on these parallel cords, these trusses here, which were structurally required actually to make this big open space for events in the middle. But the rest of the barn's fairly simple. It's a monitor style. The parallel cords are a nice little touch.
Yeah, I love those. That's probably my favorite part of the barn.
Yeah.
Those
parallel cords are over 3,000 pounds a piece. They're quite heavy.
I believe it.
It's quite a chore to get them installed, actually, but we got it done. Well, we'll wrap it up there.